And good day to you from here in South Florida, from the Community News Network, Willard Shepard Law and Media. And we always want to thank the Millers, Michael, and also Grant for providing these opportunities through the Community News Network, as they've done for such a long time here in South Florida. And today we are really honored to have with us one of the foremost attorneys here in South Florida on the subject that we are about to unfortunately have to discuss, and that's Ben Alvarez with Alvarez, Feltman, De Silva, and Costa in Coral Gables. They specialize in an area that is very, very important and on the minds of many South Floridians now due to all of the flooding that we had here in our community over the last 2 weeks, and the incredible rainstorm that really put 26 inches of rain near Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, actually inundated the airport.
Absolutely.
Along the way. Before we get to that part, tell us about your practice and you being a double gator but still rooting for the Canes.
That's pretty funny. I am a double gator. However, I've got some good friends that went to UM. They invited my wife and I to go out to the Final Four in Houston, and we couldn't pass it up. Other than the game, we had a great time. Unfortunately, Miami didn't do as well as we had hoped. But it was definitely a fun weekend with the Miami Canes fans. As far as my practice, I've been a lawyer almost 25 years. I was with some big firms, and then about 20 years ago, I went off with my own and my partners, who without them, I would not be where I am today. In fact, I couldn't be here because I'd be having to be in the courthouse instead of them doing it for me. Instead, I have the pleasure of being invited to your show. We specialize in homeowners insurance, commercial insurance, shopping centers, condo buildings. We do a lot of hurricane claims. We've handled, when I say thousands, I'm not exaggerating. We've handled thousands of hurricanes, floods, fires. What happened a week and a half ago in Fort Lauderdale, to me, is unprecedented. I've never seen something in Southeast Florida without a hurricane happen in such a way. You said it, 26 inches of rain, unbelievable.
Alex, let's put up some of the video and the pictures that we have that were provided to us by the Public Information Department, Arlene Bornstein at the City of Fort Lauderdale, about this is a video. You see one of the firefighters bringing a person out of this water after these torrential rains out there. And Alex, we can also put up the individual pictures that we have. You can do that through the course of our time together today. This is actually at a fire department. They had trouble, it looks like, being able to get out into the street and go to actually to help people. And this is what our community looked like. As you mentioned, we didn't have a named storm. We didn't have a named tropical storm.
Nope.
This is 26 inches of rain in an incredibly compressed time period. I was over at NBC the other day, and our meteorologists are saying this is part of climate change, and this is the kind of thing that can happen now. So to that point, as we work our way through this.
Wow, look at that picture.
Yeah, this is what our community looked like and is fortunately now dried out. But these people that lived through this and are now back at their homes and suffered this kind of damage. Let's talk big picture at first, Ben. What message do you have for them about what they should be doing right now and going forward?
The first thing they need to be doing, here's before we even talk about that, Willard, if you don't mind. No matter what carrier, what insurance company you have for your flood, you may think you have Allstate or Nationwide. You really don't. 95% of policies are all through the National Flood Insurance Program, which is part or backed by the United States Department of the Treasury. So the regular rules for a homeowner's claim don't apply here. All these cases, you being a lawyer are intimately familiar, you end up in federal court. There is no state jurisdiction. There is no right to a jury trial. It's all bench trials. And you have to meet certain post-loss obligations where in a hurricane, if you forget to file your sworn proof of loss, which is a document that you fill out and you, under the penalty of perjury, you sign, this is my loss. Here, if you don't get your sworn proof of loss into your adjuster, your agent, your carrier, within 60 days, that's a hard deadline, you're out of luck.
Okay, now, when does that time period start? From the moment of the, I'm going to use the word, the event, or the moment of the discovery of the damages?
In a flood insurance policy, it's from the moment of the event. Now, granted, in certain major catastrophes, FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program will allow an extension of time. For example, if you have an Ian claim, Hurricane Ian that struck the west coast of Florida in a destructive fashion just a few months ago, I believe it was in September, they have extended that deadline for the storm proof of loss for 1 year. That is mostly because people not only had flood, but their homes were devastated by Hurricane Ian. So the federal government is essentially saying, look, you don't have to do it in 2 months, you can do it in 12. But that hasn't happened here, and it likely won't happen because the only damage was flood damage. There was really no major windstorm damage.
Right. As we go forward, Ben, here, part of my mission here this morning and having you today is also the things that we can learn from this horrific flooding event that came to us in the spring, that people can prepare themselves for our storm season so they're ahead of the game. So let's keep that in mind.
That's a great point, Willard. That is a phenomenal point. When people ask me, what should I do before hurricane season starts? I tell them, take pictures of your house inside and out. Take an inventory of your contents that are valuable. Get a video of your house inside and out. If you have a drone or a friend with a drone or a friend who's got a kid, because it seems like 12-year-olds operate drones better than any adult, get a drone of your house, get a drone of your roof. So you can show the insurance company in the event of a loss, look, this is what it was before I had a problem. This is what it was before the storm hit. Now, with the problem here, and something that we started to touch on, these flood insurance policies, no matter what your house is worth, you are limited to $250,000. And you're thinking, oh, $250,000 is not that big a deal. Well, it really is when you've got to cut out all the drywall from your house, when you've got to take out electricity from your house, when it causes you to have plumbing problems, appliances problems, and flooring. The National Flood Insurance Program doesn't want to pay for flooring. They don't pay for basements. And if you have a sunken living room in your house, real pretty, a lot of these 90s houses have these beautiful sunken living rooms. A sunken living room, according to the National Flood Insurance Program, is a basement. They don't pay for it.
I'm remiss before we go forward. If you are going to use a drone, I don't want my aviation buddies to call me. If you're going to use that, you got to fly it in the Class G airspace, stay below 400 feet, always keep line of sight, and stay out of the controlled airspace if you're going to do that.
My recommendation would be to literally go 10 feet above your house, and that's all you need to go as far as height goes. That way you get a better picture of your roof with the drone. But I agree with you 100%. Always check with the authorities.
Got to follow the FAA guidelines.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, my friend and colleague over at NBC, Ari Otzer, was out in these neighborhoods over the last couple of days. FEMA was going house to house in these neighborhoods, along with the Fort Lauderdale Fire Department, as they were trying to document what they could on their end, the damage that people had suffered both to their properties and also their property damage. So walk a person through that about meeting with FEMA when they're at your home. What should that conversation be like?
Well, first of all, you're very lucky if FEMA's at your home, because FEMA is so thinly stretched because of Ian on the West Coast that you're very lucky if they come. If FEMA comes, tell them exactly what happened. Show them pictures of your house. If you have an estimate of damages that you were able to obtain from an adjuster, from a contractor, from someone in the business, give them as much information as you can so that they can make a determination and hopefully make a payment to you, at least to get you going. For example, if someone had 3 feet of water in their home, guess what? They can't stay living there. So they have small children. They've got to move out. Try to get FEMA to at least make you some sort of payment so that if you do need to move out, you can use that as your additional living expenses and rent a house or rent an apartment or an Airbnb, whatever it may be. As you know, Willard, it's very difficult to obtain a short-term rental. Mm-hmm. And when people have them, they want big money for them. After a storm, they want even bigger money for them. So act quickly. Be prepared. Again, have pictures, have estimates, have your sworn proof of loss. I know I keep using that phrase, but that is the most crucial element of this. If you don't have that form turned over to the NFIP, to the National Flood Insurance Program and the carrier, within 60 days, you are out of luck. You cannot recover.
Okay, speaking of assistance, whether it's at the local, county, state, or federal level, Marissa Bagg of the NBC6 team's also been out in this area and talked to people who said, I don't live in the flood zone. I didn't need flood insurance, and I don't have flood insurance. I don't know what you will tell that person about what they can do, but what are their options, if any?
Well, I mean, they could always go to FEMA and see how that works out. If they had damage from wind-driven rain to their home, not from flood, but from wind-driven rain, they can file a claim against their homeowner's insurance policy.
Okay. Under the wind provision of it.
Wind-driven rain,
Okay.
correct. Not flood, but a lot of people did have damage from wind-driven rain through a window, maybe through some sort of hole in the roof. That
Right.
type of damage can be covered under what we call a homeowner's 3, an HO3 policy,
Right.
which covers homeowners under their wind provision.
That sounds like they'll need John Morales and Ryan Phillips to come and make a statement that, wind provided some of this water, that's going to be an expert area to determine.
That is a phenomenal point you say that. You need a lawyer. If that's the case, you need a lawyer who's, one, ready to try the case to a jury, and two, that can bring in the right meteorologist to give you the right opinion, which we have done scores of times, to prove that it was wind damage, because your carrier is going to fight you tooth and nail. I mean, State Farm, that's not your good neighbor, and you're not in good hands with Allstate, and that's just not the way it works. These people are there to maximize the profits for the carrier. So any chance they get to deny your claim, they will. What you need to do is get yourself the right lawyers, whether it be my firm or someone who specializes in this. There's a few of us around town that do it very well, and you need to get that person to help you out.
Speaking of that, to another challenge that you've warned about and other members of the bar have warned about prior to the governor and the state legislature doing what the governor said was tort reform. What impact does that have potentially here on this group of people who have had their homes flooded, or certainly after the 1st of July going forward in our state? When this actually becomes reality, this isn't theory anymore about what may transpire and what a person's ability to actually be able to recover the amount of damages to repair their property. Where are we with this in the state?
Willard, that's a phenomenal question. The problem is, I am pretty much a lifelong Republican, but I am a centrist Republican. And at times I believe that the Democrats are right. At times I think the Republicans are right. In this case, what this governor has shoved, and I use the word shoved, down the throat of the Senate and the House is egregious. The governor has essentially made it almost impossible for a homeowner who pays his insurance carrier every year, after year, after year, after year. Because as you know, in Florida, if you have a mortgage, you have to have homeowners insurance. It is not a choice. It is not a luxury. It is required by your bank. And if you don't have homeowners insurance, they force place insurance on you.
Which is a lot more expensive.
Exactly. Triple the price. And the insurance coverage doesn't go to you. It goes to the bank, who is technically the third-party beneficiary, even though they paid for it, but they're charging you for it. The governor has made it where now you cannot recover attorney's fees on a regular homeowner's claim. The way the law has been in Florida for the last 100 years, and I'm not exaggerating, I mean the last 100 years plus, is if your carrier, your insurance company, says, I'm not paying you for that hurricane loss, and you bring a lawsuit and you prevail, you win, you show the insurance company was wrong, they have to pay your attorney's fees. That is done to deter big insurance companies with billions and billions of dollars in assets and in their pockets from basically just, being the wolf guarding the hen house, and they take advantage of homeowners. This governor, for whom I voted, has decided that that's just not the way to do it. They claim fraud, and there's some bad apples always, but that percentage is maybe 2%. They also forget to look at the fact that insurance companies come in and they basically desecrate people's ability to bring a claim. Your roof falls off in a hurricane and they write you a check for $2,500. Last time I checked, to put a roof is $2,500 a square, not $2,500 a roof. And a normal roof is going to be about 15 squares, maybe 20. And they do this all the time, but that's not fraud. But God forbid you made a mistake and you said, I think it came from the air conditioner. I said it was a plumbing loss. Now you're committing fraud. And they've used that as an excuse, the entire legislature. Even the incoming Speaker of the House, who I happen to think very highly of on a personal level, fell down the same path. It's basically insurance companies getting richer, their managing general agents getting richer, and the only people suffering are Florida's homeowners. And the governor is okay with that because the governor gets a lot more donations from insurance companies than he does from Florida's homeowners. So he says he's fixing the insurance crisis. He's not. He's only made it worse.
The governor said and believes that he is stopping frivolous claims from going forward, that those personal injury lawyers and lawyers from insurance, making insurance claims on behalf of homeowners, that they're the ones who put in all these frivolous claims and we got to do something about it.
Willard, that is easy. If you file a frivolous lawsuit for against an insurance company for damages to your home, the insurance company can file a motion for fraud upon the court. They can file a motion for summary judgment. They can file a proposal for settlement, which means if you don't meet the number that they offered you, now the homeowner has to pay for their attorney's fees. They have a dozen different avenues to equalize and make the game even more fair to the insurance company. What the governor has done is sell out to the insurance lobby, and this entire thing is a big ruse.
What I also say is that if either you or I file a frivolous claim, we can lose our bar license and not do business anymore.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a lawyer that's lost his bar license. His name is Scott Strems. Never met him, don't know the first thing about him, but I have read that he got disbarred. You know why? Bringing frivolous claims and doing things the way he's not supposed to. They used him as the poster child for his fraudulent claims. The problem is there's 125,000 lawyers in the state of Florida. There's one Scott Strems, but he's your poster child, and that's why the governor did this.
To break this down, and we're spending some time on this because this is an important matter potentially for people who've already suffered some of these damages, but certainly after the 1st of July, going forward, that we hope we don't have a storm, but there could be a massive number of people. Follow me through my thinking when I try to explain this and say, as you were talking about a roof, for example, if your roof is going to cost you $30,000 to put a roof on your property, and the insurance company says, we'll give you 10 grand. And you say, hey, my policy's even higher than what the $30,000 is. And you go to court. Prior to that, if you recovered the $20,000, that difference to make up the roof, the insurance company paid the attorney's fees and all of the costs and those things on top of it. The way that it is now, even if you recovered the $20,000, by the time the attorney's fees are taken out of that, you're still short 10 grand, $7,500, whatever that may be. And as the homeowner, you're still in a position of where you can't put your roof back on your home.
You could not be more correct. The problem is it runs even deeper than that. Number one, if the insurance company believes the roof is worth $10,000 and you sue them, they can serve on you a proposal for settlement for, let's say, $20,000. And if you take it all the way through and you don't get to the $25,000, to the $20,000 plus 25%, guess what? Even though you won a trial, you got to pay their attorney's fees. So they level out the score by being intelligent lawyers who price something out if they truly believe that's what it costs. But they don't. Because most of the time they send an insurance agent here from Wyoming who's got no idea what the South Florida building code is like, and they undervalue everything. That's number one. Number two, there isn't a lawyer worth his salt in the state of Florida who is going to take a $30,000 roof claim to trial. Because how can you spend a week in trial, hire experts, because you're right, you're going to need John Morales, plus you're going to need an engineer, and you're going to need a general contractor. John to say, this is a storm. The contractor to say, the storm did this. I'm sorry, the engineer. And the contractor to say, it's worth this much. So when you take out, and contractors and engineers, they're not cheap. You're talking $400 or $500 an hour for an expert. John Morales is over that. John's like $800 an hour if you want to hire him. Best in the business. So if you do that and you start taking the percentages out, the homeowner is going to end up with less than 10,000 as originally offered. That's exactly why the governor and his insurance buddies have done this, because now they know that the good lawyers aren't going to take it, the good experts aren't going to get hired, so now they get to win. And that's exactly the reason.
To people who live near the airport in Fort Lauderdale and in that surrounding area who have been through this, we're going to clearly call it a tragedy over the last 2 weeks. Fortunately, we haven't had any loss of life, which I think is a miracle in itself.
Ain't that the truth?
Which
Thank
is
God.
a great thing about this. If there's anything that has good come out of this, walk us through what a person in one of those neighborhoods should be doing as we speak and over the coming weeks to try to mitigate what their damages have been and get back in a good spot.
Number one, try to dry out your house as quickly as possible. Number two, have someone write you an estimate for damages. Actually, number two should be contact your insurance company. Number three, get someone to write you an estimate for damages. And number four, take that estimate and prepare a sworn proof of loss with your agent. Call your agent and file your claim with your agent. And tell your agent, hey, send me the sworn proof of loss. Here's my contractor's estimate. If you have any questions how to fill it out, email the agent and ask them to help you. They're your agent. They got to help you when you have a claim, not just taking the 10 or 15% of your policy when you pay it. So call your agent, get on the phone with them, have them help you, get you a sworn proof of loss, get yourself an estimate, and do everything possible to be able to quantify your loss so you can get that sworn proof of loss filed with the National Flood Insurance Program and your carrier and your agent within 60 days. If you don't do it within 60 days of the day of the storm or the day of the flood, you're out of luck.
We also want to encourage people to be careful that people now in this cleanup process, a lot of times are doing things that they don't normally do, physical activities that they don't normally do, using equipment that they don't normally do, those types of things. Weigh in on that. I love helping people. I don't want anybody to get hurt or have to call me on a personal injury claim of something that happened to them. And let's try to stop these types of things in advance. But people are anxious, but they may not have the training or the physical skills to be able to handle some of the things they're trying to do.
Willard, I tell people to leave the professional work to professionals. I don't think anyone should be grabbing a chainsaw and cutting down trees after a storm. I don't think anyone should be messing around with any water, any flood water that touched electricity, that touched plumbing. People should let the pros do their work. But the last thing you want to do is have a chainsaw go the wrong way because you're trying to cut a tree out of the way, and all of a sudden, it's not that you have damage to your home. Now you just lost your hand. So you are absolutely right. Stay safe. Do the work you got to do. Don't do anything that you wouldn't otherwise do in your normal daily. If you're an electrician, you know how to shut off the breakers and do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. But you and I don't know how to do that. We're lawyers. Mm-hmm. We can talk and push paper and think critically. That's about it. That's not what we do. So that would be my advice. Just stick to what you know. Don't do anything out of the ordinary and take care of yourself and your family first.
Okay, Ben, big picture, anything else you want to add to our Fort Lauderdale residents and or people across the state as we move and the clock is ticking and we're going to have the storm season upon us here? So that we didn't go over anything else that you want to add you think is paramount for people to be able to do?
I cannot stress enough, you have to file a sworn proof of loss within 60 days of the storm or of the flood. If you do not do so, you are out of luck 100%. There is no substantial compliance. It is complete. It is part of the Code of Federal Regulation. It's like a criminal statute almost. If you don't comply with that 60 days, you're done. So that is the number one thing that should be taken from it. Number two, stay safe. And number three, if you need help, call a lawyer. You can call my firm if you want, and we'll be happy to give you a free consult. But it's something that's very important that they need to do. Don't go at it alone. The insurance company is not going to be kind to you. I can promise you that.
Okay. Ben Alvarez, Coral Gables attorney, being with us today here on the Community News Network. Willard Shepard, Willard Shepard Media and Law. We always appreciate the Millers opening their doors to us, their studios to us, and the community to us. Elena Paleo and her wonderful husband, Mr. Andre Rodriguez, Influence Communications, putting us all together today. And Alex is running the show behind the board. And we will be back with you here soon on the Community News Network. Stay safe, try to stay dry. And if you're out there trying to clean up your home and your property, please be careful. Okay, God bless. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.